Well, where do I even start about what took place in Richmond on Sunday night? It is a crazy, crazy finish that resulted in Austin Dillon earning his first win in nearly 2 years. It's a finish that has had people talking for the last several days and has ultimately resulted in some penalties. So I'll break all of that down for you guys and offer my stance on everything here in this video. So as I mentioned in the introduction, it was Austin Dillon who emerged victorious in Richmond on Sunday night, and he earned that win by crashing both Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano in the final half of a lap. He was a few car lengths behind Joey Logano going into the final corner, drove it in there as hard as he could and tagged the back bumper of Logano, spinning him out, and Denny Hamlin appeared poised to sneak by both drivers and win the race, but Dillon came back down and ultimately right hooked the 11 of Denny Hamlin into the wall. Some people have said that Hamlin may have been sliding up the track a little bit and they kind of met in the middle. I definitely think there's a gray area even in the replay there, but there's definitely a leftward movement by Dillon down into the right rear of Denny Hamlin. So I'll put the video up here. I'll let y'all be the judges of that, and then I will break it down a little more for you guys.
Now, Joey Logano through 3 and 4 for the final time. There's the contact. He does get to him. The 11 on the inside. He gets into the wall. Dillon's going to win it at the line.
So yeah, it was Calamity Corner in that final corner at Richmond. It appeared that the race was not at all going to end that way just a few minutes before. Austin Dillon took the lead from Denny Hamlin with about 30 laps to go and set sail from the field. He had about a 3.5 second gap back to second place Denny Hamlin when that caution came out, 2 to go, just for an incident caused by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. that sent the race into overtime. So Dillon was well on his way to the win, and overtime, it at least appeared it ruined that for him, especially after getting such a bad restart and Joey Logano getting out to a lead. But Dillon decided he was not going to let overtime take the win away from him, and did what he had to do to get to victory lane. So there's been a lot of debate about the way he raced. Was it right or not? Even if it wasn't necessarily right, does he have a justifiable side to the story to a race like that? And I think all of the above are true to some degree. You don't ever want to see a race end like that. I'll say it as someone who's been a diehard Austin Dillon fan since I was a little kid. That is not the way you want to see a race end. I did not want to see Austin wreck multiple people to win, even though I'll just say I don't like Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano. That's never the way you want to see a race end. I wish that there had just not been an overtime there in the first place, and everyone had kept it clean, and Dillon could cruise to a win like it looked like he was going to do. But ultimately, that's not what was in the cards. Where I'm not sure if it's necessarily justifiable on Dillon's end, but I understand it. RCR has really struggled the last couple of years. Kyle Busch got off to a hot start early in 2023 when he joined RCR, ripped off a few wins, but since then he has been fairly mediocre, and Dillon has not been running good. Keith Rodden came on board as his crew chief last year, and they just never clicked. And ultimately, Rodden was relieved of his duty as crew chief after the first Richmond race this year, and they put Justin Alexander back on the box, which is who Austin Dillon has won now, I guess, all 5 of his Cup Series races with. So there's clearly some good chemistry there, and they've improved a little bit, but it's still not been pretty for RCR. But coming out of the summer break into this Richmond race this past weekend, Austin Dillon showed up with a shocking amount of speed in practice. He paced the field in practice at the fastest lap. He was top 5 in all of the lap averages, and it's clear that he really had a good car that was going to be in the mix come race time Sunday. And he ran in the top 10 all day, top 5 for most of the race. And as the track cooled down, as it went from day to night, his car really seemed to come alive. He was complaining about his car being too loose early in the race. With the cooler track temperatures later on in the race, his car tightened up kind of to how he likes it to drive around Richmond, and he just ripped off fast lap after fast lap, running right on the yellow line on the bottom, and ultimately drove up to the lead about 30 to go, getting by Denny Hamlin, and was really going to make a statement for himself, going and earning a win without anything crazy happening. Straight up was going to win that race. With his other wins, I think every win in NASCAR is earned. Even if luck is an element, the drivers still have to put themselves in position to be a beneficiary of that luck, and then they had to capitalize off of it. And that's been a situation for Dillon. This is a race where he didn't need any luck to have an opportunity. He was just up there on pure pace, and it was a huge statement. And unfortunately, the overtime kind of had to put a damper on the day for him, in what was really going to be a feel-good story, I think, across the entire industry. To see him win a race in that manner. Like I said, he didn't want overtime to ruin that, and combined with the just lack of performance of RCR and his dire playoff situation being 32nd in the points, he has to win to make the playoffs. And he decided he was going to do what he had to do, and ultimately overstepped to get there. So it was a very chaotic finish for sure. People are still talking about it today, and ultimately NASCAR has been talking about it all week, and decided that they did not really like it, and ultimately decided to strip Dillon of his playoff eligibility that he earned with this win. So he keeps the win, keeps the trophy, keeps the prize purse to win, all that jazz, but the playoff benefits associated with the win were stripped. He has also docked 25 driver and owner points, and his spotter's been suspended for 3 races for some communication on the radio. Something had to be done. That I'm an Austin Dillon fan. Even I'll say something needed to be done. I'm just not sure about stripping the playoff eligibility necessarily. The way the rule that they say he violated is worded, it is a very subjective, open-ended rule. I'll pull up the exact rule on my phone. So it is Rule 12.3.2.1, which this whole rule has to do with playoff eligibility, and this is section B of this rule. It says race finishes must be unencumbered by violations of the NASCAR rules or other actions detrimental to stock car auto racing or NASCAR as determined in the sole discretion of NASCAR. So, in other words, what that says to me pretty much is that NASCAR is the sole agent to determine not only what constitutes a detrimental action, which is very subjective in nature, because it can be looked at from a variety of different angles, but also if that action warrants stripping playoff eligibility, and there's no other rule that really falls under. where they're analyzing it. So it's just a completely subjective decision, just kind of made by a few people. There's really no precedent and no strict guidelines on how that works, and I think that is a little bit of a problem in the rule book. I think you want a rule book that's very objective, it's very direct, lays things out very specifically. You don't want it to be a subjective deal where ultimately these things are judgment calls. And that's my problem with it. I would have liked to see them follow precedent that has been set in the past. Right hooks, like what Dillon did to Denny Hamlin, has resulted in a one-race suspension the last couple times that's happened, so I think that should have been incorporated. And yeah, I think some sort of points penalty, like the 25 points, I think that's appropriate, and I think a fine is appropriate. And maybe, maybe $100,000 fine, make it more than that. But it's something that is as major of a deal and a penalty as playoff eligibility. I definitely have a problem with that being a judgment call. I'd just like to see something outlined a little more in the rules, because with the way the rule book reads, I could totally see where a driver would think, hey, it is totally legal for me to go and wreck a couple of guys to win a race, and I'm not going to lose my playoff eligibility. Yeah, I might get suspended, but I'll be granted a waiver and I'll make the playoffs. I totally see where a driver would have that line of thinking. And obviously that was not the case, so I just think some things need to be more directly laid out right there in the NASCAR rulebook. I think with that rule being so open-ended, RCR will have a really good case when they appeal this penalty, because they have chosen to appeal it. And I think they're going to have a decent case when they go to this appeals court. Because there's not a specific criteria for violating that rule. So we'll see what happens. Ultimately, I think the decision has been made. I don't think this penalty will get overturned in the appeals court, but that is where I could see RCR having a good argument and could potentially get it overturned by using that argument. So we'll see what happens. But I think just kind of patching up some gray areas in that rule book is one big takeaway that NASCAR should have from this whole situation. In addition to the rule book, I think it's time for our playoff format to be scrapped. Denny Hamlin said in his post-race interview that he almost wasn't even mad at Austin Dillon. He is just upset with the system that makes it where guys have to do that. It is a win-at-all-cost system. It's what NASCAR has marketed the system as. When guys go do crazy things, they advertise the absolute crap out of it. And ultimately, this kind of stuff is what's going to happen. And now a guy's been penalized for kind of what NASCAR has been, I feel like, encouraging for 10 years now. So I think it's time to get rid of this playoff system. If this kind of deal is what it's going to come down to, and just go back to the chase system that we had several years back. When I started watching in 2011, they had the variation of the chaser. It was a 12-driver format. The top 10 in points made it, and then the 11th and 12th spots were what they called wild card spots. It was to the winningest drivers from 11th to 20th in the points. I would be cool with even taking that limit on the points out of that for the wild card spots, and just be like, look, 2 winningest drivers from 11th and lower in points get the wild card spots, and then the top 10, regardless of wins, will make the chase. I think that would be a great system. I think you get the best of both worlds, and you're not going to have crazy stuff like what happened in Richmond happen. So I think that would be good. I think it's time to reevaluate overtime in NASCAR. Is that something that should stick around, or do we need to look at getting rid of overtime? Because we've had many examples this season of why overtime is bad. With the race at Nashville going to 5 overtimes, Indianapolis being a disaster, and both Richmond races having a lot of controversy in what was otherwise going to be a pure, calm finish, where you weren't really going to have any controversy. So, yeah, I think it's time for overtime to maybe be reevaluated in the off season. So we'll see if anything happens there. But yeah, those are really my big takeaways from this whole ordeal. I just have never seen anything like this before. It's crazy. As an Austin Dillon fan, I am so conflicted on how to feel, because I don't like seeing a race end that way. But at the same time, I love seeing my favorite driver win. I want to see my favorite driver in the playoffs. So I'm very conflicted on how to feel. So I hope you guys feel I was able to give a neutral perspective. I genuinely tried my best, tried to give my reasoning, so I hope I was able to do that pretty well, not really let my bias take a hold there. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. In the intro, there is a discount code to use on CircleBDiecast.com and PlanBSales.com, a Turbo28, and that will get you $5 off of any order that is 30 or more bucks. So go and order yourself a few 1/64 scale diecasts that they just posted. They are from 2024. Go and pre-order a race winner from this year, like 1/24 scale race winner. You can apply that even on those pre-orders. But yep, save yourself $5 with that code. All the people at that company are great people, Brent Powell and all them. So definitely go and support them and fulfill all your diecast needs with the wonderful people with Circle B Diecast. If you guys have not subscribed already, make sure to hit that button. I know this is my first video in 2 years, but I'm hoping to post at least a little more consistently than that from here on out. I just knew with this kind of deal, especially involving my favorite driver, I had to post something about it, and I've really enjoyed doing this. So I think I may start posting some more videos. But yeah, if y'all subscribe, y'all will definitely see when those videos get posted. So thank y'all so much for watching. And I know many of you guys are probably just like me, where you are just about tired of hearing about the drama, and you're just ready for a great weekend of racing in Michigan, and that is definitely where I am at this point. So hoping we will get some great racing next weekend in Richmond.